Oh, howdy old, grab yourself a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, I wanted to continue a series looking at popular, powerful endgame unique items, and I wanted to take a look at Garukhan's Flight. Now, there's a series of unique items in Path of Exile that are drop anywhere, and that are thematically tied to one of the Pantheon bosses. So, among this list, there is Garukhan's Flight, there is Arakali's Fang, there is Abarath's Hooves, there is Martyr of Innocence, and there is the Flask Sin's Rebirth. Not all of these items are particularly great. Some of them are good, some of them are mediocre. Many of them are build defining though, and they are all very, very rare drops. So this is the obligatory disclaimer. If you are planning to find this item in solo self-found, sorry, you probably won't. This item is considerably rarer than Shavronne's Wrappings. It is considerably rarer than Calm's Heart, Call of the Brotherhood, any of those specific items. Amongst all of the different Pantheon uniques, I think there's about 10 of them. I typically find that I find maybe one or two of them in a league. That's not one or two of each of the 10, that's one or two items total. And I usually find about one Shavronne's Wrappings per league. So that should give you a bit of an estimate as to how rare these items are. However, that's not a problem if you're playing in Trade League. Garukhan's Flight is an item that is sometimes completely off meta. And when it's off meta, it's very, very cheap. So the start of this league, it was going for about 50 chaos until the middle of June when a streamer put out a build that used it. And then that caused its price to explode. It shot up to something like 7, 8, 9, 10 exalts for a period. And then it's fallen back down. At the end of the Ultimatum League, when I'm recording this video, it's available for 3 exalts. And I'm not going to make any predictions about its price next league. Just to say that if people aren't interested in using it, you'll be able to get change of an exalt for it. If people are looking to use it in large numbers, then do expect to pay high single figures for it because of its rarity. So, in terms of what it actually does, firstly, it has a small chunk of dexterity, which is always welcome, especially on an item like this. It's not essential, but it's a bonus and you're going to take it. The roll goes from 30 to 40, obviously higher is better, and it's probably the more important of the 2 rolls on the item. The second mod was buffed about the time of Betrayal League, and that's the evasion rating. So you'll see here that it's 328 on this specific set. Its range is from 320 to 380. Obviously higher is better, but this is generally speaking just gravy on an otherwise already solid item. Next we have the most important essential for a set of boots, 30% movement speed. Now 30% is not as good as you can get on rare boots nowadays. Rare boots have gotten much better over the last few leagues. And that's one of the things that goes against Garukhan's Flight as a set of boots. The fact that it is competing with sets of boots that are extraordinary. However, it's going to be cheaper than most extraordinary sets of rare boots will be. So keep that in mind. You may decide that you want to use Garukhan's Flight for a while, then respec into something else, or you may decide to use them for the entire league, because they do have a lot of power in them. But you're only going to get 30% move speed out of them, whereas a rare item could conceivably have 30% plus a conditional additional 12% when you haven't been hit recently, for a total of 42%, or you could have just the Hellions mod for 35%, or you could have the Hellions mod, or maybe just the 30% mod in conjunction with the Tailwind mod. So you are paying a price for with Garukhan's Flight for the power. Next, immune to Burning Ground, Shocked Ground, and Chilled Ground. This is a small bonus, but it's a real bonus. Being immune to Burning Ground in particular is very useful in the Delve Mines. Additionally, being immune to Shocked Ground just results in you not dying to things that might have otherwise killed you. And being immune to Chilled Ground is always great, because Chilled Ground is just annoying. You probably still want some sort of other ailment protection on your character though. It's becoming more and more important to have complete immunity to freeze a lot in the game, and most things that would grant you immunity to freeze would also grant you immunity to chilled, and additionally some things that grant you immunity to freeze would also grant you immunity to shocked ground, leaving only burning ground to be relevant. So this is not a fantastic line of text, but it's all upside. Next, you've got the regenerate 100 life per second while moving. Life regeneration is not particularly great in Path of Exile. 100 sounds like a lot, but it's just outclassed by things like Life Leech and by more meaningful sources of life regeneration, like the passive tree node, the agnostic, which is build specific, or things like the elementalist stone golem regeneration. So for instance, just to take my character as an example, how much stone golem regen do I have currently? I have 1,115 life regen at the moment on an elementalist, and that's just because I'm scaling stone golems. So that is something that is not as good as it sounds, but it is still all upside. Lastly, though, you have the big one, +2 to maximum life per 10 dexterity. The ability to stack dexterity has gotten more and more and more powerful as Path of Exile has gotten older, and items like Fractal Thoughts have been added to the game, but the big turning point came when the Shaper and Hunter mod that causes you to gain a certain amount of cold damage per 10 dexterity your character's got. When that was added to the game, so originally in patch 3.1, that has since been nerfed since the version that was in 3.1, but it's still very, very, very strong. So that created a meta where people would often stack as much dexterity on a character as they could and rely upon that mod to carry their damage. If you're doing that, then Garukhan's Flight is an extraordinary set of boots. Garukhan's Flight will provide you with an enormous amount of life when you're doing this. It is quite possible for dexterity stackers to hit high 1000s in terms of total dexterity, so 16, 17, 18, 1900 dexterity. And at that point, you're looking at a set of boots that's granting you more than 300 base life. Now, this is base life, so that is then multiplied by all sorts of sources of plus percentage life. If you are using Garukhan's Flight and you're stacking dexterity, you want to seriously consider using, I think it's the Vermilion Ring, the Atlas base that grants a percentage life bonus. And you'll also want to at least seriously consider the Cirrus Helm, the one that causes you to gain 21% increased maximum life, at least 21% if it's perfectly rolled. Although that said, there are other items you would be that would be fighting with the Cirrus Helm in that slot, such as Fractal Thoughts. So that's Garukhan's Flight for you. Ultimately, it's a deck stacking item. It's somewhat of a powerhouse, and it's really slipped under the radar for a long period of time because it was so bad when it came out. When it came out, that it was 1 life per 10 dexterity, not 2, and that just made the item so much worse. What you're getting with this package, you're getting an enormous amount of evasion rating on boots, which isn't necessarily the most powerful thing in the world, but it's much better than nothing, and is particularly good if you're playing a character like a Raider that can really scale evasion rating well. And additionally, you are doing this whilst getting a huge chunk of life so that the hits that do slip through your evasion, you can endure them. Additionally, it's still a functioning set of boots. It's got that 30% move speed on it, and all around, it's just a really solid package. Often eclipsed by, on general purpose builds, it'll be eclipsed by a well-rolled rare, at least a well-crafted endgame rare, but on dexterity stacking builds, it's pretty much without compare in a lot of cases. So I'm going to leave it there. If you've got any comments or questions, definitely fire away below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one, and may your Varlorbs have interesting results.